Welcome to another episode of Culture Cast with Dustin Homan. Dustin Homan is a 4-H extension educator with the Purdue University Marion County program. And today he's going to be talking about Romania. So stay tuned. Welcome back to another episode of Culture Cast with Dustin Homan. Dustin is a 4-H extension educator with the Purdue University Marion County program. Dustin, it's always a pleasure talking with you each month.
Thanks, Patrick, and always a pleasure to be here. And I want to welcome any new viewers to our program, and especially want to welcome any returning viewers to our Culture Cast program. This has just been an amazing thing that we've been able to do through technology, and especially through the pandemic, to still be able to connect across state borders in order to travel across international borders through this program. So I just appreciate you and Sarah. You keep having me back, so thanks for that.
Well, you have such great guests talking about different strange lands, if I can say that I have a whole bucket list of countries I would love to go see.
Yeah, absolutely, Patrick. And one great thing about the program is there are some of these kind of obscure countries that maybe we would never have on our bucket list. And then we talk about them on Culture Cast and we add them by the end. So I feel like our country today is one of those. And before we get into our talk about Romania, I'd like to introduce my guest. That is my colleague, Alex Pettigrew. Alex, welcome to the program.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Of course, Alex. Alex told me a while back that she had been to 3 different countries. And so I think we've got her hopefully in the queue for like 3 of these programs. But tell the viewers a little bit about yourself.
Yes, so as Dustin said, my name is Alex Pettigrew. I currently work as an urban agriculture educator for Purdue Extension in Marion County. My work focuses on urban livestock as well as youth programming related to urban agriculture. So what's urban livestock? That's chickens and goats, also rabbits and guinea pigs. And for youth programming, I do a lot of work with the Junior Master Gardener program, as well as a program I'm doing with Dustin, chicken embryology. So my background, go ahead.
Yeah, please share.
Okay, so my background, I have 2 Purdue degrees. I studied animal sciences for my bachelor's and I minored in art and design. They had me set up to minor in biology, but I wanted to do something different. And then since I liked animal sciences, I liked doing research. But what I learned from doing research is I want to share this information with others. So I went on a master's in, back then it was called Youth Development and Ag Education. So I learned about animal sciences, then I learned how to teach about animal science and engage with different audiences about animal science. So I stacked my degrees that way. And I ended up teaching urban agriculture here, which I think is great because I didn't come from an ag background. So being able to mix my personal background coming from the city, I grew up in Indianapolis, and mixing it with agriculture and just showing people that ag is in way more than corn and soybeans and cows and sows. So I like the path that I've been led to, because I wouldn't say I picked this. I've been led to this.
I appreciate you sharing that, Alex, because I think it's important for our younger viewers, especially to hear your story. And I love the fact that you grew up in an urban area and found this passion for agriculture. And now you're getting paid to, to spark other people's passions around that. So it's just, for me, you have been an incredible colleague and connector, and you're always willing to try things, which I appreciate because I have some crazy ideas, but
I do too. So we work.
That's why we work well together. That's right. So Alex, thank you for sharing a little bit about yourself. And we're going to go ahead and jump into our country for today that Alex has been to, and she's going to share some amazing photos. And we hope that by the end of our time together, you too might add Romania to your bucket list. So let's delve in, as I was saying, to our photos. As we do with at the beginning of every Culture Cast, we start with the country's flag and a map of where Romania is. So we'll start with the flag. I don't know about you all, but we are filming this in February. I forget what day it is. And I've heard a lot of hype about the Olympics are going to happen this summer. So we're going to get you prepared for that in the opening ceremony. If you see this flag come in during the opening ceremony, hopefully you will attribute that to the country of Romania. And Romania is a country that is in Eastern Europe. Mm-hmm. So you'll see it's highlighted in red here, and there's a red circle around it as well. So a little bit of background about the country of Romania. Its capital is Bucharest, and it does have some shoreline. You'll see there in the photo that it has some shoreline that borders the Black Sea. Romania has kind of an interesting history, and so just in a very concise summary of that, it was once part of the Turkish Ottoman Empire, and then it gained independence, and it was part of the Axis powers during World War II. So with its relative proximity to Russia, it actually ended up being invaded by Russia, and so had a part of its history as a communist country, but has since become independent. In terms of size, it's about twice the size of the state of Pennsylvania. And Alex, I thought this was kind of interesting. I found the statistic that said 60% of the land in the country is used for agriculture. Nice. Which seems like a lot. So when you were there, did you feel like you saw a lot of farm fields?
Yes, I feel like I saw mainly farm fields.
Okay, all right. So the statistic
is accurate, yes.
Yeah, it's true. It's good. And last but not least, they have a population of 21.2 million people, which makes it comparable to our state of Florida. So we're done with the data. Let's get into the fun part. Alex, will you first share with us what prompted you to go to Romania?
The Department of Animal Sciences, this was one of the study abroad trips that was advertised to us in the College of Agriculture. And I was able to get a scholarship to participate in this summer programming. So just throughout the class and just knowing the animal focus of this study abroad trip, that's what really motivated me to take the trip. And I'm always doing stuff that's different, if you ask my friends and family. So my first time going overseas, I go to Romania, nowhere tropical, nowhere fancy. But I was like, I don't regret it at all. It fit. It was a really good experience.
So I didn't know this. This was your first international trip?
Yes, it was. It was fun.
So do you remember like getting on your first international flight, and what kind of feelings were you having?
I didn't know how it would be to fly on a plane for so long. I was like, do I need music? Do I need books? How does the bathroom work? Does everybody everybody's going to go to the bathroom at some point? I tried not to use the airplane bathroom, but it was inevitable because we were on there for so long. But we took 2 flights. So we did one flight on a big plane, and then we got to Germany and we got on a very small plane. And I was like, this is different. I don't know anything about small planes, but it was a different ride, not as smooth, but still I made it there in backseat. It was a different experience, but it prepared me for all other travel.
You had shared some kind of like thoughts or journal entry, maybe like short journal entries is how I would describe it when you shared these photos. And I remember on this one, I think you had said, I was on a plane for 10 hours. Phew, that's a long time. So it's funny to hear. I think those are a lot of the same questions that people ask on their first long flight. Like you're asking about the bathroom. How does that all work? So I appreciate you sharing that. But as you were saying this was a study abroad offered through the Department of Animal Sciences at Purdue. So naturally there were some animal connections. And tell us about what we're seeing here in this photo. Where were you?
So in this photo, the university we partnered with for the program was showing us their vet school. We got to see their student buildings and we got to see their vet school because Purdue University has a really big pre-vet program, and also they have the veterinary school on campus. So a lot of the students that came on this trip were eager to see the veterinary building there, and a lot of the students at the university were partnered with, connected with students here or that came from Purdue about the vet program, just to kind of compare and contrast studies and the different things in the building.
So do you remember, Alice, what their animals, like their very common animals that would be seen at a vet, what those were? compared
Yeah.
to here in the US?
I think everything was comparable. So when we
Okay.
were there, we saw dogs, we saw horses, and that's really popular. I remember from my visits to the vet school, there was always a horse there, and there was always a horse at this one, or at least from the day I visited, there was a horse there. There was a Rottweiler there. So it was just I don't want to say plain vet school, but it was your average vet school.
Yeah, I like what you said. It was comparable. I didn't know if you saw any like really weird or funky animals, no elephants or, like, no. Okay.
You got to go to the zoo for that one.
I know, wrong part of the country. I was just checking your knowledge there. But so you're at this university, and these photos you sent me were pictures of a dorm. So tell us a little bit about this. And I mean, how did you expect that it would look, I guess, relatively normal when you went in?
I didn't expect the dorm to look more like an apartment, because at the time I took this trip to living in dorms, so I thought it would be like mine, and it was not. So it was really interesting to see. And then one thing I remember about being in Romania, they never had shower curtains. So you can see the bathroom in this picture. They have a shower and a tub, but there's no shower rod or shower curtains. So that was everywhere we went, never a shower curtain.
That's wild. Do you remember, that makes me think about washcloths. Do you remember, did they have washcloths at the places that you went? Did you use them?
They did. I don't know if it was because we were there and they prepared for us, but they also gave us extra towels. So I think they knew we were going to make a mess without the shower curtain, because we use up their towels every time.
Or you very demanding Americans, huh?
Oh, maybe.
I remember when I was over in Germany, that surprised my wife and I, is that there were not washcloths at the hotel. So that was the reason I asked that. But yeah, these photos surprised me too, because if I didn't know these were from Romania, I would think that maybe it was a dorm here at the US. So one of the things we always like to highlight, Alex, is the food, and you have some amazing food photos. So tell us a little bit about the food experience in Romania.
There's a lot of meat. Now that I'm looking back at these pictures, I remember that breakfast. Like, you gave me egg and you gave me not bacon, but still pork, hot dogs. They also gave the lettuce too, which was different at the time. I remember a lot of tomatoes and cheese and fresh vegetables at a lot of meals. They often gave us soup and bread. One of my friends that went on the trip, she lived off the bread when we were over there, just because that was her choice. So she did a lot of different things with the bread, like butter, sugar, cinnamon. It was very interesting. But the bread was great, though. It was like, I don't know if it was French bread, but it was great bread. That soup was great. All the food was great. Like, I don't regret any meal I had over there.
And were there soups? Did they tend to be more like broth-based soups or creamy soups, or were they across the board?
I would say more broth-based. I don't recall a creamy soup.
Okay.
And
I think
it was the water. We never had, I guess it's flat water. It was always sparkling water. If we wanted the non-sparkling water, we had to go out and get it and just lug it with us everywhere we went. They were always going to give us sparkling water. And I feel like sparkling water burns. It doesn't refresh my taste buds.
Did you drink the water from the tap? Do you remember?
No, we always did bottled.
You bottled, okay.
Yeah.
Just wasn't sure. So an amazing food experience, and some of your architecture photos too just really drew me in. So share with the viewers what you had told me earlier about another place that this reminded you of.
Yeah, so since going on this trip, I've been able to travel a little bit more and been to New Orleans twice. So the architecture in these pictures and the colors and just the different, how they stack them and how they go different heights. That's what I've seen what I saw in downtown New Orleans, Urban Street, and the popular places people go to in New Orleans. Even the houses, they have this color pattern and similar roofing.
And you remember the pigeons, apparently.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
There's always pigeons. So we went to, I want to say it's kind of like the town square, it was a busier part of the area. And the pigeons were everywhere, and you just had to walk through them. They didn't move for you. They weren't scared of you. They were like, this is their space, and you have to go around them and respect their space. I know one of the students from the university we visited, he stood in the middle and just let the pigeons just sit on him. And I'm not like that with pigeons. They're wild birds, similar to rats is what I've heard. So I was not about to let the pigeons near me. I took the pictures though from a distance, and I always had like a person as a buffer because I didn't want to get too close to a wild pigeon.
So rats with wings, huh?
Yeah. I think I learned that from a Disney movie, so don't put that on me.
Oh, that's great, Alex. It's funny, the things that we were like vividly are seared in our minds. And I don't know if you mentioned this, but tell us what year you went to Romania.
Oh yeah, I went in 2012.
Okay,
So
yeah.
years
So
ago.
yeah, 9 years ago. And the pigeons are one thing that really stick in your mind. So that made me laugh. But
I
yeah,
think
you're
the
talking.
city pigeon thing though, like pigeons here, if you go to it's seagulls. So like seagulls in downtown Chicago, they're not scared. It's a bird thing. It's like a city bird thing.
Yep. Or just a little bit tougher, those of us that live in cities. Animals too. But anyway, I digress. So these are two more of your architecture photos I just found really beautiful. Tell us about the photo on the right. What do we see there?
Is my right?
Oh, the yellow one. Sorry.
The church, the building?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So that was we got to go in there. That was actually a church, and we got to go see it. It was empty at the time, but it was beautiful, beautiful. And that gothic style build.
Yeah.
Remember my art classes correctly.
Use that art minor, huh?
Right.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. And then you had shared a couple photos of this like artwork on the walls. Did you see a lot of what we would call graffiti?
Yes, I saw a lot of graffiti, and it was beautiful. It was colorful. I thought it was. I'm a fan of street art, and every time I saw it, I took a picture.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So you spent some time. Do you remember what city this was?
I do not.
So you spent some time in an urban area, and then you had a chance to actually get out into the country and really experience what people out in the rural areas, what their life is like. So tell us about what you got to do.
So we did the homestays, and I'll say this was like part 2 of the trip. And this was the point in the trip when the professors told me there had never been a Black student to come on this trip before. So I was like, oh, okay. Like they told me that as we got off the bus to our homestay. So they was like, just let us know how it goes. I said, okay, that's nice. But
it's
it was
a bombshell.
Yeah. But like nothing had happened thus far. So I would have never guessed. And it was fine as far as I recall. So the family was very welcoming. And we got one of the easier homestays because they ran a bed and breakfast. So they hosted us as if we were guests in the bed and breakfast. We got to see the farm and everything that they did, but other people had to work. Like they had to check on the animals and do things. We were just relaxing. We walked around. That's how I got that other picture. She did let us help cook once because we were all women. So she let us help cook and pluck chickens. So she killed the chickens in their backyard and we plucked the feathers off and we peeled potatoes. That's the only thing we had to do there. And we were there for maybe a week.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised that you still want to do like chicken programming here with us now after going through that experience. So kudos.
All right. Thank you.
How was the language barrier there, or was there a language barrier, Alex?
There was. That's why we have, we had the person in the sweatshirt in that picture is a student from the university. So when everybody did the homestay, a student from the university came with us to translate. So in our classes before going on the trip, we learned some of the language, like thank you, bathroom, and different quick things. But mainly, most people there spoke, I'll say Romanian. But for being at that homestay, I picked up on it, but I couldn't say it back, but I understood what they were saying. And I thought that was really cool. But I also had that similar experience when I was on the golf team, and 2 of my teammates, they spoke French. And so the more I was around them speaking French, the more I picked up on that and I could just respond back to them, but I couldn't say it in French.
So that understanding do you think did it sound like another language? Is that why you were able to understand parts of it?
It came when I was there long enough, it just started my mind just auto-translated it to English. So it didn't sound like another language. It just sounded like they were talking.
You are a walking billboard for why people who want to learn a language need to immerse themselves in the language, right? Because how long were you there, Alex?
At least a month.
Okay.
Yeah. So 2 weeks.
No, I'm glad you brought that up. So you talked about being at this bed and breakfast, and this was their farm. So do you remember, how did you feel? What were your reactions when you first saw their type of agriculture?
At first, when I saw it, I was like, I had never seen anything like this, because I'm coming from Purdue and I've toured all their animal science facilities and it didn't look anything like this. But now working in urban agriculture, I'm like, this is how people farm in their backyard. This is how you farm in a smaller area using your resources and not buying new fancy shiny things. So at the time I was like, wow, this is different. But now it's like, no, this is real. This is real ag.
And tell us about your milking experience.
Yes, I had the opportunity to milk the cow, and I that's just it. I had the opportunity because I didn't get any milk out. I tried, and they were very patient with me, but eventually I had to get up off the stool and just let them actually milk the cow because it needed to be milked, and I was just delaying the process.
Yeah, I feel like that's very much what parents do sometimes too, right? Like just let me do it.
Right.
I was joking with Alex earlier. Yeah, that's when Alex realized, dairy farming was not in her future. But no, it's just a fun experience and not something that everyone, even here, in the U.S., gets to do. So I'm glad you shared that. So this was the feast that you had at the family, or at the bed and breakfast. So tell us a little bit about some of the things that were on the table.
Excuse me. So chicken, and they gave us juice, and it's potatoes. Like I said, we peel potatoes. We have some lettuce, I want to say, and these wraps. They're similar to kind of like a cabbage wrap, and it's filled with meat and different things. And that was my favorite part. The favorite thing I saw over there or ate over there was those wraps. But also in the picture, those small glasses is what another thing the homestead was known for was Schwika. And that's kind of like Romanian moonshine. And you're not supposed to shoot it. You're just supposed to sip it. So that's why you still see it on the table. But I think that's the point where I knew I wasn't going to be a drinker. That's different.
And is that something that they sip through the meal, or is it like an app?
It's something you sip through the meal, and it's like a sign of respect kind of thing. One of those, if I remember it, because they always gave it to you, and everybody sipped on it, everybody shared it. And they came in, like the one this homestay was known for is peach. So they let the peach pit brew in with it over time. And you can have like a 9-year-old, 10-year-old one. It was very strong. And that's why they gave you such a small glass.
And probably what we would consider like off-label, right? Like you're not going to find this in a store somewhere.
No, one of those sheds in the previous picture, like behind the shed was where they had this big old vat of Schwika just brewing. And I'm like, this is all right. This is all right.
I guess you just hope that the alcohol content's high enough to like kill off anything in it, right?
That's how it is.
No, I think it's kind of interesting to hear stories like that, Alex, about how other cultures incorporate, beverages and food into their mealtime customs. So I appreciate you sharing that. So I thought this was kind of interesting. Tell us about how you kind of saw this both modern world and then, kind of a throwback world while you were there.
Yeah. And so when we first got there, we were in it's more so city where the university was, and BMWs were big there, but the BMW would be like a van. So the van we rode in, it was a BMW, and I'd never considered BMW to make vans to carry like 10, 20 people. So, but when we got to the more rural areas, we saw horse and buggies, and people got around on carts and different things like that. So it was a good mix. So like a part of Romania was, I'll say, current, and part of the Romania was more traditional.
So interesting. This photo surprised me when I saw all your photos. So it's one reason I wanted to highlight that. So we're starting to kind of wrap up our time together, Alex, but I feel like a lot of the photos we showed have been very, very serious and educational. And you had some fun while you were there, right?
Yeah. Yeah. We had a lot of fun. So our homestay, everybody's homestay wrapped up and it concluded with this festival. And there were a lot of small boutiques or small shops that sold different things, similar to, I'll say, a county fair. And they had music, as you can see, and the male from our homestay was actually the lead in this band. So he was up there on the stage playing, and the cotton candy they gave us was bigger than our head. And I just thought it was amazing, and it was delicious, and it was a really good time.
Yeah, good. So the music, could you like relate it to any kind of music that we might be familiar with here?
I would say the first thing that comes to mind is like folk music.
Okay.
Just because of like what's this one? Accordion.
Mm-hmm.
So the different accordions and the flutes. And
so Alex, as we wrap up this amazing story that you've been telling us, we look at this beautiful photo from Romania. I'd love for you to share with our viewers, why should they consider visiting Romania?
Yeah, I would say visit Romania because you get to experience a different pace. I know in America, it's really go, go, go. We got to be on time. But in Romania, it was less about time, more about relating and connecting with the person that you're meeting with. So I really enjoyed that slower pace, and it was calm. It was calm and it wasn't loud. So even though we saw those cars in the beginning and we saw the graffiti, but it was a calm atmosphere over in Romania. So that's why I would recommend travel there. And the scenery is just beautiful.
And so to bring this all back, you mentioned at the beginning, this was your first international trip. Where else have you gone after your trip to Romania?
Since going to Romania, study abroad trip I took was to Haiti. My family was like, really? You go from Romania to Haiti? And I was like, yes, it's what I do now. And I did have the opportunity to go to Puerto Rico also with a student I had met from the trip to Romania.
So do you think that did this trip have any impact on your confidence in traveling to other places?
Yes, I definitely believe I can go anywhere after going here, which is why I went to Haiti and then Puerto Rico.
Yeah. Good answer,
right?
Alex. I was hoping you were going to say that, but Alex, I want to thank you for your time, and Patrick, wasn't this an amazing story and amazing photos?
Very much so. My bucket list of going to different countries now has to include Romania. Mm-hmm. And it sounds like you don't want to go to Romania for 1 or 2 weeks. You want to go for at least a month.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Hey,
and stay away from the homemade alcoholic beverages. That was like the other main thing that I learned. But anyway, Alex, thanks again for your time. And I want to say a special shout out to Patrick and Sarah, who are behind the scenes that enable us to have this culture cast. To our viewers, thank you for tuning in. And we hope that you will tune in next time as we explore another part of this big, beautiful world that we live in. Take care.